Welcome back to the Unsweetened Truth Podcast. My name is Kristen, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about feedback. Feedback's tough. This is for the people that are giving feedback. This is for the people that are receiving feedback. This is for anybody working in an organization that's struggling to have those really tough conversations. So I'm hopeful I can help you guys with that today. And this is the Unsweetened Truth Podcast. This podcast is for the things that people don't talk about, the lessons that push you forward, the challenges that almost take you out, and the choices that shape your life. Leadership, work, life, and everything in between. Like hanging out with your big sister and best friend, who also happens to be a boss. Let's talk, grow, and figure it out together. In my career, I found that feedback is incredibly difficult to give and receive. Okay. And so in what I've learned over my career is that I'll take you back a little bit. I was working at a large recruiting company, and part of our onboarding I don't remember if it was for management or what it was for, but we had this little card. It was so great. It was like a little business card size thing. And it was talking about giving and receiving feedback. And it had like a bunch of different parameters on it, but it had one side that was for giving it and it had one side that was for receiving it. And so when you're giving feedback, it gave us like little steps, like make sure you ask them if it's the right time. Make sure you pick a nice quiet space. It's private. Are you emotionally checked the right way? And then when you're receiving it, it had a really great point on there that you need to know that the feedback that the person is giving to you is coming from a good place. Like you need to prepare your heart in that way to receive this feedback from them. And that's stuck with me through my entire career because I just think that little card was so helpful in learning how to give and receive difficult feedback. The culture at that work environment, for as many things that I've complained about over the years that it just wasn't great in many ways, it was also great in many ways. And that was one of the ones that it was. And it really got me very prepared to give and receive feedback, especially difficult feedback, in a manner that was healthy and straight to the point, and kind of going back from our communication episode that we had, concise, consistent, clear, and from a place that I truly, truly cared. So I really got a crash course in that there, but I want to share a little bit more about giving and receiving feedback for you guys to help you in these really tough circumstances that it might be with your boss, might be with your employee, might be with a client, might be with a subcontractor. Feedback is really, really hard. And hopefully it's coming from a good place as the deliverer of the feedback. Hopefully it is coming from the right place. But I want to give just a little bit of, I lost my train of thought. I want to talk about why feedback is important and why we should be prioritizing giving feedback to people, especially in the workplace. And let's go kind of on both sides. I think from an employee standpoint, what people forget is that your A players and your really, really good employees, not the ones that are kind of like deadbeats and just like hanging around and checking a box every day. I'm talking about the good employees that really want to stick with you. They want feedback. And they want honest and genuine feedback because those A players, those good people at your company, they want to grow. Both personally, professionally, within the organization, within their career, they want to grow, they want to become better. So if you avoid feedback, the only person that you're benefiting are those really low-level performers. They don't want it, they don't care, they don't want to grow, they don't want to change. Those are the only people that are benefiting from your lack of feedback structure. Okay. So when we're talking with our A players, we found that we obviously need to do it. When we're talking with our A players, something that you need to be thinking about is this person in general, right? There's a lot that goes into being able to give feedback, but that's obviously the important part of it. Now we got to be thinking about what type of feedback we want to be giving. If it's feedback that's really challenging, right? Versus like, I'll give an example in my workplace. It could be, hey, Carolyn, I don't really love the yellow that you put on this sheet. That's entirely different than like, hey, Carolyn, I've noticed that you've kind of struggled with XYZ over the last few weeks, and I really want to work together on changing that. Totally different levels of feedback, and it needs to be handled in completely different environments. Again, going back to that communication conversation that we had in a past podcast episode, just talking about how should it be a text? Should it be a phone call? Should it be an email? Or should it be in person? When we're delivering feedback that is emotional or it is something that could be misconstrued or taken the wrong way, we got to make sure it is in person in the best case scenario. Sometimes we have remote workers, so you have to do virtual and whatever. I understand. But you should really try to do that because you want your employee to see your heart. You want your team member, your client to see your heart, and that you're not just, if you put in an email, you've been struggling with this over the last couple of, like, you're not going to get a good response. Okay. So pick the right environment, pick the right time, pick the right place. And let's look at the person now that you're giving feedback to. Okay. Let's give some time to think about, and going back to the communication again, because everything is about communication. You have to know who this person is to be able to give them really, really good feedback. If they don't think that you genuinely care about the growth of them and their career, it's going to be in one ear and out the other. I love the saying, rules without relationship equals rebellion. You give someone feedback and you don't have a relationship with them, they are going to rebel. And it might be loud, it might be silent, it might be quietly quitting. Who knows what it is? But you have to be very careful of giving feedback without having a true relationship with someone. So that's where the relationship prior to the feedback needs to come in handy. I feel as though, and I'm sure there's times it hasn't felt this way with my team, I really make a concerted effort to make sure that they know that I care about them, whether that's personally, professionally, growth, whatever. All feedback doesn't need to feel good to know that it was done successfully, right? There's feedback that doesn't feel good. The feedback that truly grows you does not feel good, but you as a leader, you have to step up and go, my job is to lead these people and make them better personally, professionally, citizens of this planet, like we have to make them better. And that is our job to do that. And feedback and growth are going to be one of the most important ways to help them. So let's say though that you have an employee, because this is what a lot of people are always really worried about, right? So let's say you're scared to typically give feedback to people. The types of people you're probably scared of are probably somebody like me who's very direct, straight to the point. I'm going to ask very pointed questions. If it doesn't appear to be handled the right way with me, you're probably going to hear about it. I'm probably somebody that's going to be a little bit difficult to give feedback to if you don't prep it and prepare it the right way. Another person that might be really difficult to give feedback to is going to be somebody who's very, I'm going to use this word, but emotional, sensitive. And I'm not doing that in a place to say that there's something wrong with them. It's just that person you kind of have to handle a certain way. But I want to be clear with, as I continue to go through kind of these constructs of different people, I don't want you to alter your behavior or kind of contort yourself in a way that's digestible for them. My only point in what I'm saying is that I just want to make sure that you are taking into consideration the person that you are communicating with, and it's not a one size fits all type conversation. So if you're dealing with somebody who's incredibly, more emotional, or somebody who maybe is a little bit more direct and they're a little bit more aggressive in their approach or assertive in their approach, you need to know that. You need to know that about them. And so your delivery can sound different. Your delivery could be like, I love a compliment sandwich, right? You're doing this really, really great. Here's something that we could work on. You're also doing this really, really great, right? I love a little Oreo, a little compliment Oreo, I think is really good, just to be able to make it a little bit more digestible by somebody that, maybe struggles with receiving feedback. And I don't know that there's anybody who is just like 100% great at it. I'm not. But I think the person giving it can control a lot of, even though you only control 50% again, you can really set the tone because you're setting the meeting. You're the one setting the tone for the meeting. You're the one setting the calendar invite for the meeting. You're the one that's bringing it up. So you have a lot of power in the tone of how this meeting could go. So what should it look like from your side as well, right? You should look at it as, okay, I want to make sure I overly communicate. They know exactly what it's about. I'm not going to throw something random in their calendar, and we're going to sit down and we're going to discuss it. I'm going to give examples. I'm not going to make it emotional unless it has to be. I'm just going to make it strictly factual, but I am going to have sympathy and empathy for this person because I care about them. And I'm going to do all of the things. I'm going to put all of my puzzle together to set up the best space to provide this feedback to this person. Now let's pretend that you're the person receiving the feedback, because that's hard too, right? If you are receiving feedback from someone that you don't like, that's the hardest kind. You don't like them or you resent them, right? We've all been there in a relationship that we are pissed at our partner and then they want to tell us something about us, okay? We have all been there that we're like, no. Don't come to me about what's bad about me. This is what's bad about you. That's why that previous communication and that constant whatever and really learning them and paying attention to them is important, because if there's already built up resentment in some capacity, they are listening with earbuds that is playing the song on Apple that's called Resentment, I Hate My Boss, and that's what they're hearing your feedback through. Okay? So you need to navigate that prior to getting here. But let's say you kind of have a pretty good relationship with your boss and you're like, okay, I got to receive some feedback. I don't want you to brace yourself, but I do want you to kind of prepare yourself to be like, okay, this is a really great opportunity for me to learn and to grow. And going back to that little card that I told you guys about, the reason this person is bringing this up to me is because they genuinely care about me and my growth and me being a good individual, both personally and professionally. It's similar to me as like a boundary, right? Like when somebody places a boundary, it's because they want to keep you in your life. If your boss doesn't give you good, authentic feedback and they just kind of like let you do whatever you want to do, it's kind of like a stray dog that they just like let out, and then they're like, it'll figure out how to feed itself. It'll figure out where to sleep. It'll figure out whatever. The dog's not going to be doing that great. It's going to be focusing mostly on like survival and just like, what am I going to eat? What am I going to do? Whatever. You need to make sure that you're creating a safe space for these people to be able to receive feedback. So make sure that you go into it going, okay, this person is bringing me feedback because they want me to grow. They want me to be better. They want me to improve. That is a good thing. Feedback is a good thing. It's good, 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 good. I want to be careful though. There are people that are not going to give you feedback because they want you to grow. And we can get into this on maybe a whole other podcast episode, but I have definitely, this is closely related to, I was just on a podcast for somebody else regarding betrayal. This is where the mental gymnastics come in, okay? If you are getting feedback either by a coworker or a boss or employee that you know they do not have your best interest, that feedback's tainted. It's got a little spiny animal on the back of its little back as it's coming in through this person to you. It's not authentic, it's not true, and it's not genuine, which is why it's important, again, going back to this communication and this care, we really have to start with that before we do any of these other things. So feedback giver, make sure you truly care about the person. They know that you care about them. You've worked out any previous resentment. There's no other issues. You're not just stacking things on top. Create the type of environment to have a healthy conversation. Feedback receiver, prepare yourself, be open, be honest, ask the right questions, get clarity, and then go, wow, this person really cares about me. That is why they are giving me this feedback, even though it may not feel good, even though it's hard. Feedback could be good. Feedback could be bad. Both are meant to make you better and to help you grow. Something to be mindful too is someone who's the feedback giver. This advice is for the managers, the leaders, the business owners, the people that are in charge. Okay. Something that I've noticed throughout owning my own business and working with other people is it really benefits you to know about the other person. We all walk through our life with some level of either a helmet, glasses, earmuffs, whatever. And what I mean by that is if you have an employee, for example, who just has this like, maybe they believe to themselves, I am just not good enough. I'm never going to do the right thing. I'm always going to be in trouble. They have this like thought, and when I say metaphorical earmuffs and helmets and glasses, that's what I'm talking about. They see things through a lens that they are bringing with them. They hear things through a lens that they're bringing with them. They have a helmet, so they're like thinking things before you're giving them new thoughts. It's good for you to have a pretty good idea of what those glasses are, what those earmuffs are, and what that helmet is. Because I'm not asking you guys to be therapists. I'm not asking you to be psychoanalysts. I'm not asking you to be any of that. I'm just asking you to be aware. I'm asking you to recognize that you're dealing with a human, not just your employee, not just somebody that messed up on a project. We're dealing with a human, okay? And so if you don't know these things about this person, going back to what I was talking about before, like you're probably going to struggle with telling them something, but they hear it another way. So I think a good thing to do is when you're giving feedback, know the person, deliver it in a way that is cool, calm, collected for them to receive it, know your people. And that could be something like I've noticed, this might not be completely like HR legitimate, but like birth order, I think is very interesting. Oldest children typically have similarities amongst them. Middle children youngest, only children. There's consistencies amongst these people. And I'm not the first person that's ever created this, right? They're always like middle children, they're rebellious, da 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 da. Only children. They really only had to think about themselves, right? Like they had their parents and they had whatever, but the dynamic, duh, you can't get mad and be upset that that's the case. Youngest child, they're probably struggling with, oh my gosh, I've had these 3 older siblings. They were always telling me what to do and I never got to pave my own way and whatever. Like there's so many different things. Oldest siblings, oldest only, oldest and only girl, have fun with that. That's a me. But the oldest children, they were the ones that had to solve all of the problems. They had to lead the pack. They were the guinea pig. They were the whatever. So be mindful of that, even just from a simple thing. And that's something you can figure out in an interview. It's like, hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your, do you play any sports? Do you have any siblings? Like, I'd love to learn about you. I always love to include that in my interview session because I want to learn about this person because I want to learn, for example, I have an only child on my team. I know what that looks like from a birth order standpoint. I have another who's the youngest. I know what that looks like. My dad is also the youngest. I am the only girl in the middle. So your personality is partially shaped around your experience. Duh. Those are things that I'm going to have to navigate when I'm working with people. Another thing could be where you're from, what you've experienced, could be a previous job. I've had situations that employees in their previous jobs, their bosses didn't care about them. They had a very toxic work environment or whatever. It's going to take some time for them to get used to you and get used to your process. And if they're coming with their earmuffs or their glasses or their whatever, that their belief is a boss just comes in and rips me apart. They don't genuinely care about me. It's going to take a little bit of time to build that trust with them for them to go, okay, she's actually giving me this feedback because she really cares about me. She wants me to do better. Or I've even had a time that one of my employees were like, don't yell at me. And it was funny. I've never yelled at them in my entire life, but they are very used to that type of more aggressive type of way that they communicate, or someone communicates at them instead of with them. And so kind of pay attention to your people and how they interact with each other and things just about them. Learn who they are, learn their personalities. Like this is where all those personality tests and those hierarchies and stuff, where all of that comes into play. And if you're sitting here listening to this going, oh my gosh, mental gymnastics, that's too much. Can you just do your freaking job? Come on. Let's be better than that. I'm sorry that at one period of time, nobody cared about you, but that doesn't mean that you need to continue to not care about people just to give them what you experienced. Okay? That's how I feel about it. So feedback is important. Be open to it, giving it, opening to receiving it. I know I talked about during this podcast that you have to be careful of someone who may give you feedback that doesn't have your best interest in mind. And I've experienced that many, many times. And again, being on that podcast about betrayal and just whatever, I have a very interesting work history. And unfortunately, a couple times in different work environments I've been in, there's specifically people that I've worked for that actually were in competition with me, but I was working for them. Like they had that mindset, that insecure, or there's only one of us can be here type mindset. And if somebody has that, like they're in competition with you, or they think only one person can be good here, there's one seat and it's gonna be theirs, that feedback is tainted, okay? And so when I remember getting feedback from this certain individual, she would just give me this feedback that was like, you need to do this, or like you're being dishonest, or you're being this, or you're being like, we had a set schedule. I'll get very specific. We had a set schedule Monday through Friday. We had to hit a number of calls, certain number of meetings, certain things like that. I took a little bit of a unique approach, which I'm sure would not shock anybody, that instead of like calling a bunch of people or doing my schedule a certain way, I rescheduled it in a way that helped me be more successful throughout my week, but it also helped in regards to, instead of quantity, it felt like quality. Well, this person didn't really seem to appear to like that very much. So she started kind of coming at me with feedback, questioning my integrity. Like, well, where are you? Are you actually at meetings? Are you not at meetings? Or just simply because I was doing something differently. And when I say you need to be careful getting feedback from somebody, is that the feedback from this woman was not coming from the feedback coming from this woman was not coming from a kind place. It wasn't coming from a place of, I want you to grow. It was coming from a place of, I want to destroy you. Okay. And so I'm not saying that that's your boss at work. I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but I'm just saying that you need to be aware enough to recognize that not all feedback is created equal. And I remember sitting in meetings with this person, and it would be just criticism, 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 criticism. And it would make me feel really bad about myself. And I think that's something that you need to be mindful of when you get out of a meeting of feedback with somebody and you own 50% of this. So if you are going into it and they say to you, hey, I think you're doing a really great job, I just want you to change a couple things, and you come out of it going, oh my gosh, I'm the worst employee ever. That's your 50%. You need to own that. But what I'm talking about is when you go into a meeting and you're prepared and all the steps that we talked about earlier are done correctly, and you come out of it questioning who you fundamentally are as a person, that is not feedback. That is abuse. That is criticism, and someone is using their power to beat you down. And I want you to just be aware that that exists. And it's very real in the workplace. It's very real just in the world in general, that people want to give people feedback because they're like, you hurt me, so I hurt you. And just be mindful that that's a thing. And I've experienced it multiple times in my career, and it's very real. That was in more of a corporate environment, but I don't think it really mattered. But just be careful of that feedback. There was even another example that I was hitting sales numbers. I worked in a family-owned company, and for a certain period of time, I worked for the son of the owner. And we actually both were in charge of different sales accounts and things like that. And I started really doing a good job at a certain period of time. And he'd been at this business for a long time. So I imagine, again, I'm self-aware. I'd imagine that's probably pretty annoying. This newbie, new college, I wasn't even graduated from college yet. I was a little babe. And I was like really killing it on my sales numbers. And I remember sitting in a meeting with him, with his dad, and he was just like, well, my numbers are this. And well, I introduced you to them and this, which literally was his job, right? Like he is the manager of whatever. And I remember getting feedback from him that he was like, you need to have your shirt tucked in. I don't like the outfit that you're wearing. What you're looking like is not good. You need to be happy. You need to, like, he was criticizing who I was and what I looked like and how I showed up. And that was not from a kind and good place, right? That's not my glasses or my earmuffs or whatever. That's how the glasses and the earmuffs get created, okay? Is from environments like that. And that was my first big girl job I'd ever had. And in those moments, it was criticism. And, 10 plus years later, even more than that, 13 years later, I know where that was coming from them, is that he probably was frustrated. He was frustrated that I was hitting these numbers. He didn't know why that was happening. His dad was giving me praise, whatever. And that was something that he struggled with. That feedback wasn't coming from a kind place. It was coming from a tainted place of hurt. It was coming from a place of, I want to hurt her because I feel inadequate, yada, yada, yada. You can see how then when you've experienced that, you then go into your next jobs and your next jobs and your next jobs going, no, feedback's safe. Authority is a lie. It's not real. They're just here to hurt me. Think about the stories that I just told you about your own employees. Your own employees have experiences like that. So that's why you, as the leader, always need to show up the right way every single time to the best of your ability. You are not perfect. So that way you can deliver good, kind, consistent, clear feedback to your people coming from a good place. And if they don't receive it at a good place, get curious about that. Is it the way that I said it? Is it something that you're feeling? Is it something that that's really a great moment to build trust and relationship with one of your employees? And maybe one of your employees could say to you is like, hey, like I just, you just reminded me of like my old boss just used to like lock me in the office and you just yell at me nonstop. And I just felt like I was there again. And I know that that's not what you were doing and whatever. Great feedback for you, right? That's good feedback for you. That's like, okay, I wasn't yelling at him, but he may think and feel that I am because of his experience. So maybe we walk together. Maybe we don't go into an office this next time until we start building a little bit more trust. Maybe we go for a walk. There's something so powerful of standing next to somebody and like doing the same thing, going somewhere in the same direction instead of like me yelling at you. It's just getting curious and it's getting creative. So I'm hopeful that this episode was helpful. I'm hopeful that this episode shared a lot with you in regards to feedback. But guys, it's so important. People need it. They want it. They're hungry for it, but it has to be coming from a good place. And you have all of the tools and skills. I'm hopeful this was able to give you a few more to be able to make a healthy feedback exchange and giving type relationship happen. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode on feedback. I hope that you were able to take a few things from it that hopefully you can implement today, tomorrow, or at your next meeting. Follow our Instagram, subscribe to our channel. I hope this episode was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week.